And territory means getting into somebody's space. So for example, and your name is? Melissa. For example, I'm getting real close to Melissa right here. She's kicking me, by the way, so don't take this seriously. And in American culture, the ideal distance to be away from somebody is what? Somebody say 30 feet? Bob, did you tell me this advanced group here? I got to take this down a level. 2 feet? Somebody said 2. It's about 14 inches to 4 feet is the ideal distance to be for somebody. For example, how many of you know anybody like this? And if you're doing this, you got to take a look at yourself. How many of you know anybody like this is when you're talking to them, they're right in your face, and you step back, and they don't get it. They just keep coming. And they keep coming. And they don't. And all you picked up is what? Bad breath. You just want to get out of there, and all that stuff. And that can be very disconcerting to people, too, to have somebody right in you. So if you're one of these people doing it, take a good look at yourself and say, cut that out, because it really takes away from building the connections and the rapport on that. So 14 inches to 4 feet is the ideal distance that you need to stand there. The next one is the E. Make yourself more approachable, likable, and trustworthy, because what do we say? People are making up their minds about you instantly. The E is what? Oh, yeah, boy, that's good. Eye contact. And eye contact, by the way, eye contact does not mean staring at anyone. There's a fine line between staring and stalking, and you got to watch out for that, because you ever seen somebody just stare at you? You ever do this? Or for some of you who are trainers, and a lot of you are trainers in here, for example. You ever had a class where there's somebody just always looking at you? Anybody know what I'm talking about? And they're just looking at you the whole time, and you know how you want to look at all sides of the room. So I'm like looking over here, but there's always this person staring at me. So you go, now let me tell you about the 4 things. and it's just because you wonder, is your zipper down or what? You know, the whole thing is like, I don't know why they're looking at me like that. But anyway. But eye contact, and the ideal time to keep your eyes on anyone is what? In American culture. When you're speaking? When they're speaking? Time-wise, though. It's about that, because once you go beyond this time a little bit, sometimes people feel uncomfortable. It's about, somebody said about 3 to 5 seconds is the ideal time. But don't start doing this. Don't start going like, okay, I got to look at you again, or don't start getting off and on these areas, but be very careful on that. And again, you want to focus on them. But don't, again, 3 to 5 seconds is the ideal, but obviously you can go over a little bit, but watch out as you're going along with that too. Let me ask you this too. When we talk about eye contact, how do you tell if somebody likes you or agrees with you by their eyes? Somebody said it. What did you say? Yeah, the pupils tend to expand or dilate. So let's say I'm talking to Gil here. Oh, he doesn't like anything I'm saying. God, you guys don't like any of this stuff. I got to go to somebody who likes it. But anyway, but the pupils tend to expand, or they tend to dilate. And it was interesting. I was doing a workshop for a group called Pfizer Pharmaceuticals with a bunch of doctors the other day. And one guy raised his hand. He says, Arnold, that's not necessarily true. And I said, he says, that's not true all the time. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, that means people could also be on drugs. So, because if you're on drugs, your eyes get wider too. So either you guys are on drugs, I don't know, but you got to watch out for that, so that aspect of it. How do you tell also, a lot of this too is we need to get instant eye contact when we meet people. What's a trick that you can use to actually get, let's say you're meeting somebody intimidating or you're a little bit shy. How do you get instant eye contact with somebody if you're in those categories when you walk in the room? What's a trick you can use?
Handshake.
Pardon? Handshake? Okay, if that works for you, it works. There's no wrong answers on this one. Handshake. How do you get that? Pardon? Ask him a question could be something that would work in that area.
Say hello.
Say hello. That could work too. Okay, here's one thing you may want to try on this area too is, let's say, I'm a little shy, and I'm sorry, your name is? Tracy. And let's say I'm meeting Tracy and she's really intimidating or something, and so I come up and I say, what I would do is, if let's say I'm a little shy or I just need to, because if you don't make that eye contact, what happens? People don't trust you, they don't build rapport, there's no connection there. It takes away from what you want to get across. So I would pretend, if she's really intimidating, that I'm not looking at a person, I'm looking at the color of her eyes. So what I'll do is I'll say, hi, I'm Arnold Sanow, but I'll play a game with myself. What is the color of her eyes? And that generally takes about 3 to 5 seconds. I have no clue what yours are, so this might take an hour. Looking at you. There goes the staring. But anyway, it could take a long time. But the thing is, that seems to work. And to give you an example of this too, because a while ago, is anybody here familiar with the Washingtonian magazine? How many of you ever heard of Washingtonian magazine? And a number of years ago, they'd rate the best doctors, best dentists, best this, and there was a doctor in there. And he was rated as one of the best doctors in all of Washington, D.C. And what I did is, he said, come in, he says, I'm getting no referrals from other patients. This is what he said, I'm rated as the best doctor. He said this on the phone. I get no referrals from other patients. My staff has a high turnover rate. Nobody seems to like me. Can you come in and figure out what to do? Now, this didn't take a genius to figure this out, because this is how I did. I walked in. I'm coming in from where you are. This is the doctor. He's standing like this. And he starts talking to me like this. And he says, I don't know what it is. I'm the best doctor in all Washington, D.C. I get no referrals from other doctors. My patients don't seem to like me. They come just because I'm a good doctor. And I have a high turnover of staff. And then he points at me like this and says, and can you figure out what to do about it? Now, this didn't take a genius. And I hate to tell you what I thought about next, because being the consultant I am, my first reaction is like, geez, how can I make this a 3-year consulting assignment? Let's say 3 years on eye contact. Okay, let's say 3 years. How can I stretch this one out? But anyway, but all I did with him was to do what? I had him do the color of the eyes thing, because he just had this aversion to doing that. And I work with a lot of people with social anxieties, which is a nice word for shyness, and that worked really well. And within a couple days, he had it. So it's interesting, but it took away from his connections with people because he didn't do that aspect of it. And then the last one there is the N, to make yourself more approachable, likable, and trustworthy. The N is? Nice. Oh, nice is really good to have. Natural. I don't want to have a picture of that, but natural. Oh, somebody said it. Nod, yeah. Not nodding off now. Not nodding off. And what I mean by that is nodding to show you're paying attention to people. And when I say nodding off, unfortunately, a lot of us do what? We're tired all the time, we're yawning. And yawning doesn't necessarily mean you're bored or stuff, but it gives the impression that you are, which people pick up really quickly, and then they have a reaction for you. Now, by the way, when I talk about nodding, let me hear, there's also on the phone, because when you're on the phone, you don't have your body language, right? You just have your tone of voice and your words. So let me hear everybody in this room how you nod on the phone. Let me hear your nods on the phone. Okay, I'm not convinced here, but you got to watch out how you do that, because that's the only impression people are getting for you. And to give you an example of this too, my wife, I don't know if you know anybody like this, but my wife is very busy all the time. And when I call her on the phone, she'll go like this. She'll go, she'll say, Arnold, how are things going? And as soon as I start talking, guess what she'll do? She'll go, which literally means, look, I got better things to do than talk with you. So I know at least where I stand. And I've heard this every time. I'll call her today, she'll do the same thing. But I wanted to test her one time. I was flying back from San Diego, and my wife called, and she says, how are things going again? And I started talking, and she went, And you know what I did in the middle of her ahs? I said, you know what, Nancy? I am leaving with another woman. Guess what she said? She said, And I said, you know what? I'm leaving tonight at 9 o'clock. She went, And then she said, see ya. I said, God, she did not hear one word I said. And then I found out later that women actually listen better than I thought. Because I came home the next day, I put my key in the door, and she says, well, what are you doing at home? I thought you left with another woman. So, you know, you learn real quickly not to take those chances as you're going. So you really got to watch out on those aspects of it. But the reason I'm giving you this, the so what, because to me the whole thing of this is, so why am I even going over this? Because if you don't practice these types of things, people will focus on you and not the message that you want to get across. Somebody's going to be listening to you or dealing with this. Plus, if you don't do this, they're not going to feel as comfortable with you. You're not going to build the rapport and the connections without this aspect of it. So you've got to work on those areas too.